Hi, everybody. My name is David Michael,
And I am Michael Carter.
and we are
Ridiculously
ridiculously
bored.
bored. God, we're horrible. All right. So this is episode 2, and we actually had some listeners last time, which was
Yes.
I don't know. I didn't know what to expect, whether or not people are gonna actually listen to this. So and we had some questions too, believe it or not. We have fans. I don't know if I would call them fans, but
Can
they're
you have a
people that are
podcast
listening.
groupie? Is that is that
I
is
don't
that a
know. I
thing?
don't. I don't think that's the thing. Not for two old dads. I don't think that's a thing at all.
Groupie for me
So,
would be like somebody who does my shopping. I'd be fine with that. I want to ask a couple questions to you. So from the last episode, as you mentioned, it's really just us bullshitting, right? That's the idea of this. You and I have fun. We don't get to talk as much as we would like. And the pandemic opened up this first opportunity, even though we had been talking about it forever. So a couple questions came out from last week. One was, what do you actually do for a living? It didn't come up at all last week.
what don't I do for a living? So, my actual job, I am responsible for e-commerce at a reseller of global technology products. So that's my actual job. My career has been built around web development and just programming in general. So I went to college at ASU, Arizona State University, and then when I graduated, actually before I graduated, I got a job working at a company called Insight, building websites, building their website, and that really launched my career. I wasn't even going to school for programming or anything like that. I was actually going to school for industrial design. So I kind of fell into web development because it just happened to be exploding when I was going through my junior and senior year of college. So
Was that the junior 1 year, junior 2 year, senior 1 year, senior
all
two
right.
year?
So nobody tells you when you're going to college, everybody tells you you have 2 years to declare a major. All right. So most people kind of pick, freshman, sophomore year, they just kind of screw around, get all the basics done, and then they choose a major, and then there's 2 more years and they're out. Well, it just so happened that the major I chose, industrial design, was a 4-year program. Did not know that until I declared it at the end of my sophomore year. So thus the extra few years. But I was living in a fraternity house, so I wasn't exactly in a rush to graduate. In fact, one of my fraternity brothers, I won't name names, but you know who you are. He was on his when I was a freshman, he was on his 7th year, I think, of college, and he took the bare minimum, like one class a semester, just so that he could stay enrolled, and he just lived it up and had the time of his life. So
Well, look, that's the way to do it
it
if you
wasn't too bad.
can. So Thanksgiving just passed. David and I have, with COVID in general, probably the celebrations were a little bit smaller than usual. So what
Not
did
in
you do?
Arizona. Not in Arizona. We had a super spreader event at my place. We had about 40 people. No, I'm kidding. We had 8 people total. It was good. We cooked enough food for like 40 or 50 people, but and I am certainly feeling extra fat and bloated today. How about you?
Yeah, we had it at my house. We just had over my parents, so there was six of us: my wife and I, the two kids, and my parents. Pretty small. We expected my nephew to come up from North Carolina, but he couldn't make it. But
Oh no.
similar, and this is a very Italian thing, and I know Thanksgiving is an American holiday, but this is a very Italian thing. There was enough food that easily another 15 people could have walked in the
Oh
door and
yeah.
we would have been
Oh
able to
yeah.
feed them.
Yeah. I
As a
don't even
matter,
think we know how to have any sort of a meal where there's enough food just for the people that show up. It's like in our DNA.
yeah. And so, I've been making since then, I've made turkey pot pie, I've made turkey noodle soup, I've made a Thanksgiving on a roll, I've called it, where it has all the stuff. So it's like every meal now is turkey for the next few days.
I can't do it. I'm worth what, couple days after Thanksgiving, and I'm too lazy to actually try and be creative and make something from it. So I just end up eating the same thing. I had ham, I had turkey, I had stuffing, and I had candied yams for like lunch and dinner for the last 2 days, and I think I'm pretty much over it now.
Yeah. See, that kind of rut, that's the kind of rut I end up in when we do diet competitions, right? So these holidays are upon us now. That will flow right into the Christmas season, which you'd think between Christmas and New Year's is the Christmas season, but unfortunately what happens, it really starts kind of on December 1st and even back to Thanksgiving. You really just eat whatever you want for the next 5 weeks. And so because of that, every year, me, some friends, a few of my cousins, we actually do a weight loss competition on January 1st. We call it the Fat Off, which I know in this politically correct world is probably not what to call it, but
I've heard about this. I've heard about, and I've seen like through like Facebook and stuff like that. I've seen you guys post about it. It's pretty epic.
Yeah, one of the things is like when I put my mind to something, I can do it. And I'm not talking about like I can't play guitar. That's a different story. But I'm talking about things that I can control, right? And so when we do this competition, it is usually a couple of us who really go full steam at it, and then there's a few others who it's just free money. We have guys who've gained weight during the competition, so the buy-in's $100. It's not cheap. It's not free. It's $100. So we've had a couple of ringers. We've had as many as 12 at some points.
Wow. So is it first place, like first prize goes to the winner, or do you like have a first, a second, a third?
We do either a 1-2 or 1-2-3 type thing payouts, but then we also do a weekly piece. And the reason why we do that is because otherwise you're going to lose people really early, right? If they have, if somebody's 5-7% down, because one of the things we do is it's percentage of weight loss too early, then the other people are going to be like, well, I can't win this competition anyway. Why do I keep trying? So we do that. We've actually had some women in the competition as well. One year, my wife kind of took them through the ringer because it was just after she had our second kid, and she joined, and so she was going to lose her baby weight as well as wanting to get more healthy, and so she like crushed that competition. There was no shot for people.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, I'm not thin by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm not overweight enough to where I could lose more than 4 or 5% of my body weight.
Yeah, but you're of the two of us, you're the more muscular one. You're the one who works out, things like that. You've done karate and all things like that. Me, it's just I'm on my computer all day, and that's enough for me.
So, do you have control over your fingers?
Strength and conditioning. Yes.
All right. Well, I'm just saying. You said if you things that you can control, you can play guitar if you have control over your fingers. This I know for a fact.
You also want to have to do it. So
yes,
maybe I should add it.
Definitely. Yeah, I actually did a weight loss competition once, and it was my ex-wife and I, and the winner got the next car in the family. So, and it was based off of body percentage, and I really wanted a new car, and so we did it, and I absolutely crushed it. Ended up buying a new Volkswagen GTI with my winnings.
Very nice. That's a little bit higher stakes than we go for.
But I mean, growing up, we gambled on everything. I mean, literally everything. And the annual trip is in Vegas every year. It's you, me, and a couple other guys. Yeah. Gambling is like in our DNA as well. I don't know if it's an Italian thing, but it's certainly a New York Italian thing.
Yeah. So this is going to be probably the first year we don't do it in the 18 or 20 years that we've done it. And we've done it every year, including the 2 years that I lived in Australia. I was coming home for something and we organized the trip around it. So it does kind of suck that we're not going to be able to go to Vegas this year. But you're right. I'll bet on anything. Like I'll bet on two people crossing the street. I couldn't care less. Like if somebody puts odds, I'll do it. So
I don't know. I mean, I don't know why we're going to not go this year. I mean, obviously the year is just about over, so it's a little bit tough, but my wife and I went to Vegas 2 months ago, and other than everybody wearing masks and the fact that every like blackjack and poker table had these like, clear plastic guards separating everybody, it was just like another weekend in Vegas. I mean, we went and stayed at the Venetian or the Palazzo. I can't remember which one. And it was a Friday night, and there's probably 600 people in the casino. I mean, it was like any other weekend in Vegas.
Yeah, but you drove. That's the biggest difference, right? For the guys from the East Coast, we'd have to fly out there. So it's that process of flying out there, the potential. New York has a quarantine rules for certain things here, so there's that piece. Some of us, I'm not in the office currently, but some of the people who are would be in because they work in the healthcare field, and those people are still in the office and things like that. So it's just difficult. And then there's also selling it to the family, right? Like, I don't think my wife would say no, but I also haven't asked her.
She would be excited about it. Yeah.
Yeah, she wouldn't.
Well, I mean, I did fly to New York from Phoenix in May in the middle of the pandemic. My dad had an accident and accidentally fell on a knife, and I had to go fly and take care of him for a little bit, and ended up moving him out to Arizona from that trip. But that was scary because nobody was flying in May. Now, I mean, it seems like everybody's flying because the flights are really cheap and everybody wants to get out of the house. But back then it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, and so that's an emergency situation, right? Anything goes in those cases.
Yeah.
But you're just going to drop that your dad fell on a knife and there's going to be no follow-up to it? Like, I know what happened, but I mean, I think that's something that people would want to know.
All right. So it's no secret that my dad has Alzheimer's. It's been diagnosed. It took a while to get it diagnosed because we were trying to do it during the pandemic, but it is diagnosed now. He's been, he and I used to talk maybe twice a year. I would call him on his birthday, and I would call him on Father's Day and maybe on Christmas. We never had a really close relationship, but I would always, call him when it was, appropriate. And every once in a while, I'd call and check on him. And I had, I heard rumblings from family members. Nobody in my family is left in New York. It was my dad. That's it. My mom had moved away to Florida. Aunts and uncles and everybody are all over the country, right? So my dad's pretty much the only one left in New York. And I moved out to Phoenix when I was 18. So I haven't lived in New York since 1992. So it's been quite a long time. Everyone had been saying that my dad was a little bit different, a little bit off. Every once in a while, he has a Facebook account and he would just post some random crazy shit on there, like, stop yelling at me. And like, people were like, well, who are you talking to? He's like, he's older, he's 74. He doesn't really know how to use Facebook. So we all I just kind of looked at it and was like, all right, yeah, he's just kind of, he's being a dad and he doesn't know how to use the technology. So he thinks he's talking to somebody and he's not.
So David, I want to pause you real quick. Speaking of Facebook, and I know you're in the middle of a story, but my dad uses Facebook and he doesn't know how to either. And I have connected where I get all of the things he does, any things he likes, any emails he sends, any things he posts, I get an email for it. He's had a habit of, because I want to monitor him, he has a habit of, he has a habit of liking the one Russian model who has no other friends and has a very sexy photo as her homepage. And so that's what started me monitoring him as well. So sorry. So technology is not a friend of my family.
All right. Either. So I have to keep on going with that. I read an article, and I don't know if this is true or not, because you can't believe anything you read anymore, but either the Pope or somebody high up in the Vatican accidentally liked a photo on Instagram of like some really like hot, sexy Russian or some, influencer that basically is known for posting like half nude photos.
Yeah. And the Vatican said it's true that happened from that account, but they don't know from where. They don't know who. They're trying to it's going to be one of those I was hacked type situations.
Well, let's be realistic. The Pope isn't on Instagram, right? They have a social media department or a marketing department inside the Vatican that's handling all of that shit.
Jesus and the Pope don't know how to use Instagram?
Yes, that's 100% what I'm saying.
It's like in Major League. Jesus doesn't know how to hit a curveball.
Can we get back to my story?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Where was I? All right. So
anyway, New York.
Yeah. So my dad was, there's lots of crazy stuff happening. So I get a call one night and it's from my mom who lives in Florida. And she's like, look, your dad's in the hospital right now. We don't know what happened, but he stabbed himself. And, immediately everyone's like, oh my God, like what's going on? Come to find out that he was cooking himself some dinner. And according to him, he was, holding a steak knife and he backed up, fell down, went to go put his hand down to stop his fall, and then just basically jabbed his artery, one of his arteries in his leg, and almost bled out. He made it to the door, screamed, and the next door neighbor, who's never home, happened to be home, opens the door and came out and was like, oh my God, let me call 911. And I don't know how he did this or had the wherewithal to think this, but he said, don't call 911. call the fire department. They're across the street. And of course, there's a fire department across the street. So she did that, and they were there in like 2 minutes. Luckily, they were able to stop the bleeding. And then 15 minutes later, the ambulance showed up. So had they not been there, more likely than not, he would not have survived.
Yeah,
Now,
and I saw the apartment right
yes,
afterwards.
you and I
saw
went to clean up the mess.
So putting the puzzle together, I can see, because he did have a loose floorboard, so I can see how he would have tripped where he was, right? When he told us the story, it makes sense. But it legitimately looked like a murder scene. Like that's how much blood was all over the place.
Yeah, I have a picture of it. Maybe I'll post it.
Yeah. And so the amount was insane. So the fact of the matter is...
and the smell.
Yeah.
The smell.
It's without question to me, if they didn't do what he asked and call the fire department, he would have died. Like the amount of blood that was lost.
And doctors confirmed that and everything. So anyway, I flew to New York overnight, got him out of the hospital, took him back to his place. Wasn't real excited about the living conditions that he was living in. Obviously he's getting up in age, but just really didn't take care of, the things that he had. So I just kind of convinced him to move out to Arizona with me. And I rented a U-Haul and drove across the country in 3 days, 12 hours a day, 12 to 15 hours a day, which was an absolute nightmare. So can I tell one more story about that trip?
Yeah. And so on a side note, right, you and I have talked about this with your dad having Alzheimer's and my mom also having pretty far along Alzheimer's as well. Like, it is a difficult situation that we find the humor in it, right? I think you and I find the humor in a lot of things.
Well, we have to.
You're right. So you're either laugh or you're going to cry, right? And so, yeah, I'd like you to tell the other story as well. Your hotel stay.
Yes. So we are, by the way, if you live in Dayton, Ohio, you have the best police department on the planet. I'm going to explain why in about a minute. So we're driving through Ohio, and it rained literally from the time we crossed the state line into Ohio. It rained from the time that we left the state. And so we're getting pretty late in the night, and we're about to hit Dayton, and I'm like, all right, I'm getting tired. I've been driving for 12, 13 hours. I got to get a hotel. So we get like a Courtyard Marriott, and we pull in, and I get all of his stuff up into the room. We're driving this massive like U-Haul truck that's filled with, all of his worldly belongings. So I get everything settled in the room. It's like 10 o'clock at night. I get him settled, and he's wide awake. He's wired because he's been sleeping the entire car ride, right? And I've been driving, so I'm ready to pass out, and he's ready to go for breakfast.
I'm the same as a passenger, man. Yeah. I have no issue sleeping the whole ride if I'm a passenger.
He was, yeah. So I'm like, I gotta go to bed. So he's talking to me, and he won't stop talking, and eventually I just pass out. So I pass out until about 5 a.m. 5 a.m. I get up, I look around. I left a nightlight on for him because I knew it was going to be a little disorienting because he had never been there before. And I look up, and he's nowhere to be found. And we're in a hotel room. It's not a big room, right? So I look up, and I jump up, and I look, and his phone's on the bed. His wallet's on the bed. He only had one pair of shoes because we had packed everything else. His shoes are on the floor. So I'm like, all right, he's got to be in the bathroom. Go around the corner of the bathroom. Not there. Open the door to the hotel room, look down the hallway both ways, not there. Jesus Christ. Where the hell could he possibly be? So I run back to the bed, and his phone starts ringing. And I look at it, and it's a Dayton, Ohio number. So I'm like, oh, shit. So I answer the phone, and it's Officer whomever from the Dayton police. We need you to come downstairs. We've found your father. So I'm like, great. So I put my shoes on, I grab his phone, grab his wallet, run downstairs, and and it's pouring out still. And it's 5 a.m. And the police officer says, you're going to want to follow us. And I'm like, okay, can we walk there? He's like, no. I'm like, what? So I get in the car, and we drive over to another hotel that's about a mile down the road. And we get in there, and he's in the lobby, completely soaking wet, drenched, and no shoes on. His socks are soaking wet, and he's surrounded by like 3 or 4 police officers. And they immediately start asking me questions like, what's his name? Where's he from? They're trying to compare what he told them and what I know. And are you his son? And it was an absolute disaster. But they were super nice about it. And I explained to them, I'm like, look, he's got, we think at this point we hadn't been diagnosed yet, but I'm like, I think he's got dementia or Alzheimer's. He doesn't really know, kind of where he is and what's going on. And they're like, yeah, we kind of figured that, but they released him to my custody and took him back to the room and got him ready. And we hightailed it out of Dayton and started our trip again. The next night, once we got in the room, I blocked the front door and I put that little bench where you put your suitcase on. I put that in front of the door, and then I opened the suitcase so that it looked like it was just like another wall, like it wasn't a door. And he didn't escape that night.
How did he walk a mile with no shoes? Like that's
No
the
idea.
one thing that comes right
And
to mind.
he didn't remember doing it. He said I just kind of woke up and he's as far as I know, he's not a sleepwalker. So he just said I kind of just woke up and I was outside and I realized that I needed to get back into the hotel. So I started banging on the door, but the door was locked. And I'm like, our hotel door wasn't locked, but the hotel that he went to, the door was locked. And like
room
the night
27 at the other hotel, they actually locked their door. Yes. So here's the interesting thing, right? Because I don't know about your dad, but my mom has moments of clarity, right? Where she can remember things from a long time ago. I wish at that moment your dad had a moment of clarity and actually joked with the cops that you had kidnapped him. I think that would have been awesome.
No, that wouldn't have been awesome. I would have been in jail because there's no way for me to prove that I didn't do that at that point in time.
And then I would have got another call and I would have had to help you with something else as well.
Yeah. And the funny part was the police officer, well, one of the funny parts, the police officer asked him where he lived. And the street that he gave was the street that he grew up on, not the street that we lived in as a family for 30 years, but the house that he lived in before that. So when the officer asked me, like, where does he live? And I gave his most recent address, and the officer's like, that's not what he told me. And I went, did he say Union Avenue? And the officer was like, yeah, that's what he said. So that's when I had to explain what was going on.
I was at a store once, speaking of my joke about him saying you kidnapped him. I was at a store once with my kids, right? And as you know, my wife is Asian. My kids are half and half. They're half Asian, half Italian. And the first few years,
Caucasian?
No, they're Chinese and Italian, so we call them Chi-Italian.
Okay.
So we were at a store, and for the first few years, my kids looked a lot more like my wife than they did me. And the kids were screaming, and I was
Hold on, I have to stop you there.
Sure.
I remember the day your oldest was born, and I called you, and I said, "Congrats! How's everything going? How's the baby?" And you had the most puzzled voice, and you said, "He looks Chinese."
Like 100%.
Like, what did you expect him to look like? Your wife's Chinese.
It was surprising to me because
Why?
he did not look like me at all. And it was a few months before he started looking like me. And so we were leaving a store, and he was screaming his head off about he didn't want to go. He was maybe a year and a half or so. He didn't want to go. He didn't want to leave. Why are you taking me? And I could feel the tension in the store for people, in essence, thinking I was kidnapping this child. And if he had a sense of humor at that age, right? If he had a sense of humor at that age, like I did, and he's now learning, he would have said, "This isn't my daddy," and that day would have ended a lot differently.
There have been various times throughout my parenthood where my kids could have had me arrested in a heartbeat, just by saying the slightest wrong thing to someone when they were having an outburst, and I probably would have went to jail, not for doing anything other than not being able to prove my innocence.
Well, you're talking about now, right? Which is a little bit different. So when I was a kid, my mom accidentally broke my arm. If that happened now,
I don't. You've never told me this story before. I don't. Yeah. How do I not know this? I've known you for 40 years.
It would have been before you came into the picture. And I know that sounds like we're dating. We're not. But
we are not.
When I was about 5 years old, we had blacktopped the backyard. So the whole driveway was backed up. And we grew up pretty poor, right? So something like this was a big deal. My dad probably had to save up, and I'm not kidding when I say this, probably a year and a half to be able to get the money to do this. So we blacktopped the whole backyard. And the way it was left, there was a curve in the backyard. And because of that, the blacktop was curved. And so it wasn't a perfect line, so it couldn't be finished perfectly. So it had a little curve to it. And I would go to the corner of that curve. It was the day after they did it. And I was picking up some of the blacktop. So I was literally destroying it as I was going along. My mom happened to
I
be
can
outside.
see the backhand coming.
Yeah. Well, I wish it was just a backhand. So my mom was outside cleaning, and she had a broom in her hand. And so she came over to me. And look, to be fair to her, she did just try to hit me in the ass. But I did a little bit of defensive maneuvering, and I tried to block it with my arm, and she broke my arm.
Wow.
So, like, I get that I was doing something wrong. I get that, there was a time when kids got hit, right? Like, I always say, my parents didn't come home drunk.
This is back when it was legal
to
beat your kids.
Not legal. So, like, my parents never came home drunk and just, like, beat me or whatever. But I got in a lot of trouble, and so I got hit here and there. Mm-hmm. And this was one of those cases. I get why she was going to hit me, but she didn't need to swing as if it was the bottom of the ninth at Shea Stadium and she was trying to win the game. So, yeah, she broke my arm. And then,
wow.
And I think I've even done this with my kids.
Before.
Yeah, with my kids, something will happen and they're like, oh, this hurts. I'm like, you're fine. Like, you fell down one stair. Like, how much could you have gotten hurt there? No, it hurts. So I complained for a few days, and then finally they brought me to the doctor, and It was broken. Yeah. So, like, if that were to happen today, she'd be in jail.
Yeah, I broke my son's arm, but I broke it by buying a really expensive toy that we both had a lot of fun using. It was it's called a one wheel, and it's like an electronic skateboard, but it's literally one wheel, and it uses a gyroscope, and you get on it and you balance. So it's like a skateboard, but there's only one big fat, kind of wheel. And I was teaching him how to use it, and we were riding down, and he's just a maniac. The minute he learned and thought he was comfortable using this, he immediately starts to push the limits of it. And he pushed it too far. And so I have cameras in front of my house, and I actually have video of him breaking his arm in front of the house. I don't know if I'm allowed to share it, but
are you calling it like a skateboard because unicycle sounds pretty geeky?
It's not a unicycle. You don't sit on it. You stand on it.
I'm not a scholar, but uni is,
I'm gonna make
Latin for one.
I'm going to make you ride it, and then I'm going to push you off of it.
There's no fucking way. There's no way you're getting me to ride that. I don't care how much money you're throwing on the table. That's not happening.
Can we talk about, didn't you like tear your ACL, MCL in your front yard? Can we talk about that?
Yes. And that we could share the video if you wanted to, because I am an adult. So I have a general feeling that, so we moved into a new house in January. I have a general feeling that the house potentially could be haunted. And, we could talk about the paranormal at a different time. But so we're in the house maybe a week and a half. I have somebody come over to look at a couple things. We wanted to put a whole home water filter in. So here's the part that kind of gets me a little bit. The guy kept canceling. So he canceled on a good day, canceled on a good weather day, canceled on a good weather day. Finally, it was one day that it was black ice everywhere. And so the guy comes and he's like, hey, I can actually come over today. Can I come? I'll show you outside where the piece would go. We run it through the house, all this stuff. So I go outside to talk to him. We walk around. He shows me where it is. On the way back, and it looks such an innocent fall. And I completely tore my entire quad muscle off of the bone. So, actually 3 of the 4 tore off the bone. 1 stayed on. So, yeah, I needed surgery. I have a pretty big scar from it. And, surgery is getting more and more advanced. And, there's microsurgery and all this stuff. No, not this. They still haven't mastered it for this. It's about an 8 or 9 inch scar. Yeah. It's about an 8 or 9 inch scar down my knee. That I actually will share the video with you so you can post it, because it's amazingly simple. And I want to get on the record.
It almost looks like it happens in slow motion.
It wasn't that far off of that. And I want to get on the record. The guy I was talking to is not related to me. And the guy did not just walk away. He actually went to get my wife. Because in the video, it looks like the guy's like, away, fuck it, he fell. I'm just leaving. That's what it looks like. So there's no sound to it, but that is what happened.
And I'm pretty sure the unanimous reaction by all of your friends and family members that saw it was, why the fuck is that guy walking away? Why doesn't he actually help him?
Not only that, they thought it was a specific cousin of mine. They kept asking me, why did he just walk away? And I'm like, first of all, it's not him. So yeah, I mean, that was a couple weeks of rehab, and And then the pandemic hit, and so rehab became doing it at home instead of going to a place. Thankfully, it's fine, but yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. So what have you guys been doing just to keep busy? You were like watching a lot of Netflix, like, you know, just because I mean, it's funny because Arizona and New York are just almost like two different worlds right
Mhm.
now. In Arizona, it's very much like Vegas. Like, with you know, people are wearing masks, but other than that, you really wouldn't know that there's a pandemic going on because everybody's kind of just going about their day. And we have a very, you know, conservative governor who's like, you know what, we don't want to shut stuff down. We want people to live their lives, and that's great and that's fine. But when I went to New York, I felt like I was in a dystopian society because everything was locked down.
Yeah, and the lockdown isn't as severe right now, but it's still pretty significant. So I've actually been. So one of the things is on some of the TV shows currently, you're starting to see the effect of the pandemic, right? Some of them are starting to come back where people are wearing masks in them. You know, judges have like glass in front of them, things like that. But Netflix doesn't seem to have that. They seem to have a lot of stuff in their vault. And so they've just released this series. It's called We Are the Champions. I don't know if you've seen any episodes yet.
Mm-mm.
It's about 5 or 6 episodes. And it is all these events around the world that are, to me, absolutely insane. So one of them is people rolling cheese down a hill and then running down the hill full speed. So people are getting concussions, broken legs, torn ligaments. So that's one of the
That sounds like
episodes.
something we would do as kids.
Well, yeah, without the cheese.
Yeah.
And
We
then
couldn't afford the cheese
the one
unless it
that
was the government cheese.
yeah, well, yeah. Then the other one that was just so odd to me was there was one on frog jumping. So
So they have frogs and they jump, or they're people jumping the frog jump?
no, so it's not the kids game. It's actual people go out. They go to there's a couple different people. So there's like the New York Yankees of frog jumping, like one family.
Oh, it's a team
And then
sport,
it's a team sport. It's no, it's an individual sport, but there's teams.
but it's
So
organized.
yeah, it's organized. So that's
Okay.
one.
Is there a league?
I don't know if it's a league, but there's an annual event. You get paid if you win. You get paid even more if you break the record, like because some frog jumped 22 feet 30 years ago. So he's the secretariat of frogs, I guess. I don't know.
So wait. The all important question: can we gamble on it?
I'm figuring we can get underground on it. We can gamble on
Okay.
it. I think.
All right. We'll have to do that.
So these people go through this process of, and I don't know how they have other jobs. They go and get the frogs. They train the frogs. They by training them, they do competitions in front of their house to see how far they jump. And the ones that are better, they start weeding out the weaker ones. And so it's a competition that happens every year. And it's like, first of all, it's like, how is this a Netflix show? Right? That's one. And it's
Deep
something
into the vault.
yeah. And then it's just something that's just crazy. I've never heard about it. And it's so
So
weird. You
is it
can't look away,
like
though.
one
That's
jump?
the problem.
Is it like one jump? They get one jump and then they measure that jump, or is it like
So you're
explain.
really trying to get the inside scoop to be
I
able
need to
gamble
understand
on this.
it. You're selling it like it's a good show, so I need to understand.
Hold on. Not a good show. That is not intended at all. It's a show that sucks you in, though. That I'll give it.
Okay.
So it's 3 jumps, and the person
So it's like
jumps,
the triple jump, like the Olympics.
Yeah, it's basically, yeah.
Okay.
The people jump behind them to make them jump. And then the heartbreak was the ones where the frog jumps sideways, because then they get no extra distance, right? Because frog doesn't know which fucking way to go. It doesn't know that it's supposed to go straight. So it's the equivalent of a train wreck. Like I couldn't look away though. And then I'm like, oh, there's another. Oh, there's one on cheese rolling. Oh, there's one on hairstyling. Like, and the next thing I know, I've watched all 6 episodes. That's what you do on a fucking break from work, when Thanksgiving break.
So you've officially reached the bowels of Netflix. You've watched all the good shit, and then all that's left is frog jumping at 2 a.m.
I've watched all the good shit, even some of the stuff I know has been bad or rewatched, and then the frog jumping. What have you been doing to fill your time when you've had time?
I'm big on documentaries, so I watch a lot of documentaries, and I'll bounce back and forth between like Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, all those stupid little Wi-Fi channels. You know, when you buy a TV, you get like a whole bunch of like different apps that are built in, like Tubi and Fubo and all those other things. So I'll kind of poke around those and watch. Um, Other than that, I just, I was into watching the news for a while, and then, the election happened, and then I didn't want anything to do with the news. So I kind of go through these little things, but like outside of TV, like my wife and I, like, especially like the first couple of months, we were just like, this is insane. Like, we can't be in the house, this much and not want to like be at each other's throats. And we weren't. I mean, we were fine, but we were just thinking of things to try and just like switch it up. And one of the things we did is I have a bar in my living room. So I would like put on the calendar, like, happy hour. And then we would literally like get dressed and we would go to the bar, and then we'd take
That
turns
sounds sad,
being
actually.
bartenders, and we would drink for like 2 hours, and it was actually pretty fun. It was almost like us going out to a bar. The only difference is we had to like serve ourselves. So, and I'm like you, I've seen your bar. Every time I go to Costco, I usually end up coming home with one bottle of something. And I'm not a big drinker, but I like to have a fully stocked bar for when we have guests. So if someone comes over and they say, I want drink XYZ, I've got all the things to make it. I've even bought like Frangelico, which I don't even like, but I know you like, on the sure off chance that you ever make it down here again and you want something to drink, because you don't really drink anything else.
Yeah, I don't drink a lot at all, but there are stories when I have, and that's definitely for a different day. That's not for today.
Yeah.
So as part of your news and watching the news, like I unfortunately I feel the news is always so disappointing. It's who shot somebody, the presidential election, whatever side you're on, it was a shit show with the two of them going at each other and the craziness from that. But I do know that you just stumbled across some interesting article that you were bringing up the other day.
Fucking crazy. So somebody, no, it was like the Park Services, I think, found some metal structure. It's like a triangular, like 10-foot tall. They were calling it a metal monolith in the middle of the Utah desert. And so I'll post a picture of it.
Is that them like kind of trying to say they think it's like Stonehenge? Is that what they're trying to do with this thing?
Well, Stonehenge looks like it's of this earth, right? Because it's made from rocks and stuff like that. This is like I don't know that they've tested the metal to know what the hell the metal is, but it's basically this 10-foot tall, like sheet metal triangle that shoots up out of the ground. And it clearly had been there for some length of time, because if someone would have just put it there, you would have seen like tracks, and this is like a middle of the desert. Like, this wasn't like something that you would just stumble across while you're on a hike. This is, you got to go like 10 miles out of your way to get to this thing. And I think the Forest Service folks only found it because they were flying overhead and it was like reflecting the sun. So they were like, what's that shiny object down there? And then they landed and they went and checked it out and they took a bunch of pictures. So I don't know if paranormal stuff and like alien stuff, I want to believe, like desperately want to believe that there's life outside of, the earth, and that paranormal stuff, the afterlife exists. But I just haven't really seen anything that would convince me otherwise. So,
and a stick of metal in the desert isn't doing it for you?
You know what? Maybe, but it could they're thinking there's like some stories out there that saying like, it looks like something that some artist, that died a bunch of years ago could have potentially done, and it was kind of in their repertoire to do stuff like that. But how they would look at it, it's literally just a piece of metal. So how they would look at it and go, oh, that's in the style of this artist. I mean, what did that artist do where like you can look at literally just a piece of metal sticking out of the ground and go, oh yeah, that's their style. It's not like Dali where it's got like some sort of like unique characteristics to it. It's literally just a triangular piece of metal sticking out of the ground.
I don't know. I'm not a big person of art, right? Like I go to an art museum. Sometimes like you walk around with those things on your head where they your headphones.
I can tell by your
stories.
Lack of decor in the background.
Yes, and they give you and this is done up. They give you the headphones that you can walk around in the exhibit. So I like hearing a little bit about it, but that's about it, right? And that's been, at least for me, that's been great, because in previously you'd go to the museum, you'd walk around, you'd have to read everything if you wanted to get information on it, or you had to go with a tour guide, and it was just too fucking long. Now you throw on the headphones, you walk around real quick, and it's good. So I'm not the big art guy as it is, but I just think this is some dude's piece of art, and they're making a big deal about it. And not even good art, in my opinion. It's literally just a piece of metal. I mean, if my gutter fell off, jammed into the ground, and they found it 6 weeks later, so you had no proof that it was just done, it would be the same thing to me. What this guy has done.
Maybe. I don't know.
But that's just me.
All right. So we did a crazy question last week, and it wasn't intentional, but it got the most reaction out of most people, and I ended up using it for the thumbnail on YouTube. So I thought it would be fun to do another, what I'm calling one crazy question of the week, or we can do multiples, but so I got another one. And this one came from the fact that I'm always just looking at, I have a news application that I always pull up, and this one article came up, and I don't know if it was in like, I don't know what was the source of the article. I'll have to go back and look at it. But the article said something to the effect of like 67 or 70% of women pee in the shower. And this absolutely blew my mind.
Now, did it blow your mind? Did it blow your mind because you don't pee in the shower, or you do pee in the shower?
I think it's the most disgusting and heinous thing ever.
Really?
All right. Yeah, absolutely.
You're not going to like my answer. Nor, on a side note, nor will my wife.
In fact, I have a routine. I usually go before I get in the shower. So, I mean, why? I just don't get it. You're not saving that much time.
Why has that drain have preferential treatment over the toilet? It's another drain. It goes downwards. So yeah, I pee in the shower. I don't say to myself, oh, got to make sure to save this up to pee in the shower. But if I'm in there and I got to pee, I pee.
I don't get it. But and it was specifically women. So that was kind of odd because at least men, we can aim. Like women, it just kind of falls out. So there's pretty good chance you're getting it all over your legs and your feet. So, that one kind of threw me for a loop. And I got some other statistics too. So article, Huffington Post from 2015. They asked a bunch of folks some different questions about just what they do, like weird bathroom habits. 50% of the respondents said that they fold their toilet paper before wiping themselves, while 30% just wad it up into whatever and wipe it that way. What kind of fucking monster just wads it up and just wipes away with it? I don't understand.
Hold on. Wadding it up is, I'm hoping you consider that different than kind of looping around your hand, right? And making like a, what I'll call almost like a toilet paper handle, right?
Well, that's
like
a fold, right? You're folding it around your hand. That's fine. Wadding it up into just like a ball and then using that.
I haven't seen it in a while, but did you ever go to the bathrooms that it's only like the little square comes out? So it's not a roll. It's just a little square that's about the size of now your iPhone. The squares come out. And so to get any sort of volume, you're emptying basically the whole thing because you're pulling out like 40 or 50 of them before you're even ready to wipe. It's insane. I haven't seen that in a long, long time, but that was out there for a while as well.
Oh. So here's some other funny statistics. Hold on. 60% wipe. So going back to our question from last week, 60% wipe front to back, while 20% go against the grain and do it back to front. What I want to know is, what do the other 20% do? There's a missing 20% here.
Hose.
And we don't.
They use a hose. International has weighed in. They use a hose. What about, do you stand up completely, or do you just raise yourself a little bit?
No, public bathroom or at home?
No, I'm not talking about like hovering over a public toilet because you don't want your ass to touch the seat. At home, remember, you're talking to me. I'm usually at home. You're home. You get up. Do you fully raise up and wipe, or do you lift yourself just a little bit and wipe?
All right. So this might be a little bit of TMI. And you know me well enough to know that I find challenges in the weirdest places. I actually find it a challenge to squat and not touch the seat. So I use it. I don't work out a lot where I'm doing lots of squats. So I use my time in the bathroom to do squats and try and hold my balance above the seat. So yeah, I don't stand straight up. I choose a to the point of where my quads will actually burn a little bit after I'm done. I look at it. It's a 2-for-1. I'm going to the bathroom. I might as well get a little bit of exercise while I'm doing it. So
No, the two
exercise my
for
quads.
one, the two
my
for one
hamstring.
in the bathroom is you get some reading done in there.
I do that too. So I get 3 for 1.
Or as one of my friends called it, you poogle. You poop and you search Google. It's one of those two. It's not to do exercises. That's
Hey,
out.
Every man for himself.
So in this vein, I saw a commercial the other day on this item called Cologuard, right? So
like Coca-Cola?
no,
Or
like
colon.
Cologuard, right?
Okay.
So basically,
so we're going there then.
I didn't do any research on what it was. I just listened to the commercial. So in essence, and I'm sure there's more to it than this, you have to shit in a box and send it back, and they tell you if you have colon cancer or not. Would you be able to shit in a box for research or for a medical exam?
If I was worried about having colon cancer, I would most certainly shit in a box. I would probably wear rubber gloves when doing it, which is a perfect fucking segue into some of your habits. Let's talk about the fact that you will not touch or prepare food without rubber gloves on.
That's a topic for another day.
I think it needs to be. All right, fine. Let it be known that every time I come over your house and you prepare a meal, you have gloves on.
So here's the thing. The only thing I'll mention about that, and this is a full topic for another day, is on Thanksgiving, I actually said to my wife, today's a 25 glove kind of day. I did actually say that to her this week.
Jesus Christ.
So listen, before we end, as we talked about last week, I went into the joke vault. I really should call it the idea vault because I think you made it very clear last week.
A joke implies that there's funny.
Correct. So I got another one. I'm going to do another joke from the joke vault. And again, because you pick on me, it was a thought that the joke would come later. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tell a story at some point where I'm going to work in one of the jokes from the joke vault and show you that it works as a joke. It just doesn't work as a thought. So I just said, when you're shopping, you should consider what's in your shopping basket because it says to the clerk, if you buy things like Gatorade and condoms, you're implying that you're in for one hell of a night. Just like you shouldn't buy duct tape and chloroform together.
All right, I'll give you that one. That was actually mildly entertaining.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so thank you. So for the next episode, what do you want to do?
Well, I definitely think we need to explore your use of gloves in the kitchen because I find that talk about like oddities. I've never seen that before in my life. That's pretty fucking weird.
All right, so why don't we make that the next episode?
A
little tease for the next episode.
That'll be a fun topic to go over.
All
right. Also, if anyone has any recommendations for our one crazy question, by all means, anything you want us to talk about or discuss or answer during the podcast, we would be more than happy to entertain it. If it's funny, if it's insulting, we won't do it. But all right, maybe we will do it because
I will do it if it's insulting.
We totally will do it. All right. Thanks for listening or watching. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe and click the bell notification icon to get notified every time we create a new episode, which we're hoping to do weekly. And if you use any one of the, I don't know, dozen or so other podcast formats that we're on right now, please follow us and or subscribe and engage. Do you have anything to say, Michael?
I'm Michael Carter.
I'm David Michael, and we are
ridiculously bored. Hold on. That's the first paragraph of the story.
That's about people dying of leprosy,
right? Where they bring the dog out in the back and they fucking shoot him at the end. Like, how do you read that to your kids, right? Like,